"You're a burden now," my mother said, her voice cutting through the evening air like broken glass. "I'm Natalie. Natalie Carson. And this is the story of how my family threw me away like yesterday's trash, and how that became the best thing that ever happened to me." My brother Caleb stood behind my wheelchair, hands gripping the handles so tight his knuckles had gone white. 2 duffel bags sat heavy on my lap, the same ones I'd used for camping trips to Yosemite before everything changed. Before the semi-truck ran the red light. Before my legs stopped working the way they were supposed to. "We can't take care of you anymore," Mom continued, arms crossed over her chest like she was protecting herself from me. "From the inconvenience I'd become. You'll have to figure things out on your own." 3 months ago, I was the backbone of this family. I ran Dad's construction company after he passed. I kept the mortgage paid, the fridge stocked, helped Caleb through his gambling debts that would have destroyed him. I was the responsible one. The dependable one. The one everyone leaned on. Then a Walmart delivery truck changed everything in the space of a heartbeat. The doctors said my spinal cord injury was incomplete. There was hope for recovery, they said. Physical therapy, experimental treatments, time, all of it could help me walk again. But recovery takes patience. It takes support. It takes family who actually gives a damn. Mine didn't. At first, Mom cried at the hospital. She held my hand and said she couldn't imagine life without me. But when I came home in that wheelchair, something shifted. The tears dried up. The sympathy turned to resentment. She complained about the cost of my medications even though my insurance covered most of it. She said she couldn't have her book club over anymore because that wheelchair takes up too much space in the living room. Caleb started avoiding me completely, couldn't even look me in the eye during dinner. And now, 3 weeks after I'd returned from the hospital, here we were. My own mother and brother wheeling me out to the curb like I was a broken washing machine they were too cheap to repair. The front door slammed shut behind them. That sound, God, that sound echoed in my chest like a funeral bell. Final. Absolute. Done. I sat there on the sidewalk as the California sun started dipping below the houses across the street, casting long shadows that made everything look distorted and wrong. My old Toyota Camry sat in the driveway, the one I couldn't drive anymore. A mockery of the independence I used to have. But here's what my mother didn't know. What Caleb didn't know. I'd been planning for this moment since my 2nd week in the hospital. Not because I predicted their cruelty, I'd hoped for better, honestly, but because I knew I couldn't rely on anyone but myself. Not anymore. They thought they were abandoning a helpless woman who'd never amount to anything again. They had no idea what I'd already set in motion. 3 months from now, when they discovered the truth about what I'd been hiding, it would destroy them in ways they couldn't imagine. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a woman left for dead on a suburban curb became someone her family couldn't recognize. What my family didn't know, what nobody knew except one person, was that I'd been working on something big before the accident. Something that could change everything. Dr. Raymond Pierce. That's the name you need to remember. He was my father's best friend, a neurologist and researcher at Stanford Medical Center who'd become like an uncle to me after Dad died. 2 months before my accident, Dr. Pierce had approached me with an opportunity that seemed almost too good to be true. His research team had developed a revolutionary neural stimulation program called Synapse Link. It used AI-driven electrical impulses combined with advanced physical therapy to help spinal cord injury patients regain mobility. They were looking for someone to manage the business side, someone who understood both medical ethics and financial operations. Someone like me, with my background running Dad's company. I'd accepted the position. We were days away from signing contracts when the accident happened. I thought that was it. Opportunity gone. Future erased. But Dr. Pierce visited me in the hospital during my 2nd week, after the initial surgeries, when I was just starting to process what my life would become. He pulled a chair close to my bed and said something I'll never forget. "Natalie, you're not done. Not even close. In fact, you just became the most valuable member of our team." I didn't understand at first. He explained that they needed someone who'd actually lived through a spinal cord injury. Someone who could test the Synapse Link technology firsthand and help shape it into something real, something that worked for actual patients, not just lab theories. "You'll be our lead consultant," he said, "and our first success story. If you're willing." The contract he slid across my hospital tray included a salary, that made my construction company income look like pocket change. More importantly, it included full coverage for an experimental treatment program at a private rehabilitation facility in San Francisco, one of only 3 in the country testing the Synapse Link system. I signed it with a shaking hand, tears running down my face. But I didn't tell my family. Mom was already stressed about the hospital bills she thought we'd have to pay. Caleb was distant and weird. I thought maybe I'd wait until I had good news to share. Until I could walk into the living room on my own 2 feet, and show them that their daughter wasn't broken after all. I never got that chance. They kicked me out before I could tell them anything. So when Mom and Caleb left me on that curb 3 weeks ago, I wasn't panicking. I was angry, furious, actually, but I wasn't scared. Because I knew that in exactly 45 minutes, a medical transport van arranged by Dr. Pierce would arrive to take me to the Presidio Rehabilitation Institute in San Francisco. The driver pulled up right on schedule. His name was Jerome, kind eyes, gentle hands. He loaded my bags into the van without asking questions about why I was sitting alone on a residential street like forgotten luggage. Rough day? He asked as we pulled away. I watched my childhood home disappear in the side mirror. Watched my family's rejection fade into the distance. No, I said quietly. Just the beginning of something better. The Presidio Rehabilitation Institute didn't look like a hospital. It looked like a luxury hotel dropped into the San Francisco hills, all glass walls and eucalyptus trees and views of the Golden Gate Bridge that made you forget you were there to rebuild your broken body. My room had floor-to-ceiling windows. A private bathroom with rails and an accessible shower. A desk where I could work on my laptop. This wasn't charity or pity. This was my job, my salary, my earned place in something revolutionary. Dr. Pierce introduced me to the team my first morning. There was Vanessa, my physical therapist, who had arms like a CrossFit champion and a laugh that could fill a room. There was Dr. Okonkwo, the neuroscience specialist who spoke 6 languages and explained complex medical concepts like he was telling bedtime stories. And there was the Synapse Link device itself, a sleek headset covered in sensors that looked like something from a science fiction movie. The technology reads your brain's electrical signals, Dr. Okonkwo explained during our first session, and strengthens the neural pathways trying to communicate with your legs. Think of it like physical therapy for your nervous system. The first few weeks were brutal. Every morning started at 6 with assisted stretches that made me want to scream. Then came the Synapse Link sessions, 30 minutes wearing the headset while electrical impulses tingled through my spine like carbonated water in my veins. Then pool therapy, where Vanessa would support me while I tried to remember how legs were supposed to work. Then lunch. Then more therapy. Then device calibration meetings where I'd give feedback to the engineering team. Then dinner. Then sleep that felt like death. I'd collapse into bed each night completely emptied out, muscles screaming, mind exhausted. And every single time I wanted to quit, I'd picture my mother's face when she called me a burden. I'd hear Caleb's silence as he wheeled me out like trash. That rejection became my fuel. You're one of the most determined people I've ever worked with, Vanessa told me during week 4, after I'd pushed through a session that left me crying from pain. Most patients need encouragement to keep going. You need encouragement to stop. She didn't understand. How could she? She hadn't been abandoned by the people who were supposed to love her most. By week 6, something changed. During a Synapse Link session, my right toe twitched. Just once. Just barely. But it moved on command. I thought about moving it, and it moved. Dr. Pierce was in the room when it happened. He and Dr. Okonkwo exchanged looks that I couldn't quite read, but I saw the excitement they were trying to contain. The neural pathways are reconnecting, Dr. Okonkwo said, his voice carefully measured. This is exactly what we hoped for. By week 8, I could feel temperature in my legs again, hot and cold, pressure and release. By week 10, I could tense my thigh muscles voluntarily. Small movements. Baby steps, literally. But they were mine. My body, coming back to me piece by piece. The Synapse Link technology was working. And I was about to become living proof of something the medical world had never seen before. 3 months into treatment, I stood for the first time. Not with full leg braces and a harness like before. Not with Vanessa holding me up. Just me, 2 lightweight support braces on my legs, parallel bars on either side. And a determination that could have moved mountains. My legs shook like a newborn deer. Sweat poured down my face. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to sit back down in that wheelchair. But I stayed standing for 45 seconds. The entire rehabilitation team applauded. Vanessa had tears running down her face. Dr. Pierce gripped my shoulder and said, "Your father would be losing his mind right now." That night, alone in my room, I cried harder than I had since the accident. Not from sadness, from pure, overwhelming relief that I wasn't gone. That the Natalie who used to hike Muir Woods and dance at her cousin's wedding and stand on her own 2 feet wasn't erased forever. She was just sleeping. And she was waking up. The progress accelerated after that. By month 4, I could walk the length of the parallel bars with just hand support. By month 5, I graduated to a walker, taking slow, careful steps around the facility's therapy room. The synapse link sessions got longer, more intense, the AI learning my neural patterns and optimizing the treatment in real time. I wasn't just recovering. I was becoming a medical breakthrough. That's when Bradford Sutton entered the picture. He was the CEO of NeuralGen Technologies, the biotech company funding our entire research program. Mid-50s, silver hair, suits that probably cost more than my first car. He flew in from Boston specifically to meet the team, and specifically to meet me. "Dr. Pierce has been sending me weekly updates on your progress," he said, shaking my hand while I stood with my walker. "Frankly, Ms. Carson, you're exceeding every projection we had for this technology." We sat in the facility's conference room, me, Bradford, Dr. Pierce, and Dr. Okonkwo. They pulled up charts showing my recovery metrics compared to traditional spinal injury rehabilitation. The improvement curves weren't just better. They were different. Revolutionary. "We want to take Synapse Link public next quarter," Bradford said, looking directly at me. "FDA approval, medical journal publications, the full launch. And we want you to be the face of it." I blinked. "Me? Who better?" Dr. Pierce interjected, smiling. "You're not just a patient. You're a consultant. You helped refine the technology. You understand both the medical and business sides. And your story, Natalie, your story is exactly what this needs." Bradford slid a folder across the table. "We are offering you the position of Director of Patient Innovation. You'd lead our outreach programs, speak at conferences, help shape how we bring this technology to other people like you. The salary." He named a number that made my throat tighten. That was more than I'd made in 3 years running Dad's company. "I know this is sudden," Bradford continued, "but we are going public with this in 6 weeks. I need an answer by Monday." I looked at Dr. Pierce. He nodded encouragingly. I thought about my mother saying I was a burden. About Caleb leaving me on that curb. "You have my answer now," I said. "Yes." The press release dropped on a Tuesday morning like a bomb. Local woman defies paralysis. Natalie Carson leads groundbreaking neural recovery program. It was everywhere. CNN. Good Morning America. The San Francisco Chronicle's front page. My face, walking with forearm crutches alongside Bradford Sutton and Dr. Pierce, all of us standing in front of the Presidio Institute banner. The article detailed everything. My spinal cord injury. The Synapse Link technology. My role as both patient and Director of Patient Innovation. My recovery from wheelchair-bound to walking independently. They called me a pioneer. A breakthrough case. An inspiration. My phone exploded. Old friends from high school. Former employees from Dad's company. Journalists requesting interviews. Patient advocacy groups asking me to speak. The Today Show wanted me for a segment. And then, buried among hundreds of notifications, I saw them. Text from Caleb. "Natalie. I saw the news. We need to talk." Voicemail from Mom. "Sweetheart, it's your mother. I saw you on television this morning. You look so beautiful walking like that. Please call me back. We've been so worried about you." Worried. That word almost made me laugh. I deleted both without responding and focused on preparation for our official press conference scheduled for Friday. Bradford wanted me ready, talking points memoized, wardrobe selected, story polished. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about thousands of people with spinal injuries who needed hope. The conference room at Neurogen's San Francisco headquarters was packed. Cameras everywhere. Medical journalists, tech reporters, patient advocates filling every seat. I wore a navy blazer, minimal jewelry, my forearm crutches resting against my chair as I sat on the panel between Bradford and Dr. Pierce. The questions came fast. How does Synapse Link work? What's the recovery timeline? When will it be available to other patients? What does this mean for spinal cord injury treatment? I answered everything, clear and confident, the same woman who used to negotiate construction contracts and manage payroll. Except now I was doing something that actually mattered. Near the end, a reporter from the Chronicle raised her hand. Natalie, can you talk about your support system during recovery? Who helped you through the darkest moments? I paused. Thought about my mother calling me a burden. Thought about Caleb wheeling me out like garbage. I learned that family isn't always the people you share blood with, I said slowly. Sometimes it's the people who see your value when you can't see it yourself. Dr. Pierce, Vanessa my therapist, the entire Presidio team, they became my family when I needed one most. The reporter nodded, satisfied with the inspirational answer. But I wasn't done. I also learned that the people who abandon you in your lowest moment don't deserve access to your highest ones. The room went quiet for a heartbeat. Bradford shot me a look, but I saw the slight smile on his lips. Dr. Pierce squeezed my shoulder. That evening, my phone rang. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Caleb this time. Voicemail. Then a text from Mom. Please, Natalie. We are at the Presidio Institute. They said you're here. We just want 5 minutes. I stared at that message for a long time. Finally, I texted back. Room 247. Knock first. They knocked at 7:15 p.m., right after I'd finished my evening Synapse Link session. I was tired, sweaty, my legs aching from a full day of press events and therapy. But I needed this conversation to happen. Needed to close this chapter. Come in, I called. The door opened. Mom entered first, looking smaller than I remembered, her highlighted hair less perfect than usual, dark circles under her eyes. Caleb followed, hands shoved in his jeans pockets, unable to meet my gaze. They both froze when they saw me standing by the window, no wheelchair in sight, just my forearm crutches for balance. Natalie, Mom breathed. You're standing. I'm walking, actually, I said, my voice flat. Been walking for 6 weeks now. But you wouldn't know that since you dumped me on the curb and never called to check if I was alive or dead. That's not fair, Caleb started, but I cut him off with a look that could have frozen fire. Sit down, I said, gesturing to the chairs near my desk. You wanted 5 minutes. Talk. They sat like scolded children. Mom kept wringing her hands, staring at my legs, at the crutches, at everything except my eyes. We saw you on the news, Mom finally said. We had no idea you were working on something like this. That you were part of something so important. Would it have mattered? I asked. If you'd known, would you have kept me? Or was I only worth keeping if I was successful and profitable? Don't say that, Mom whispered. We were overwhelmed. Scared. We didn't know how to handle. Handle what? Me needing help? Me being temporarily disabled? Or me being inconvenient for your book club? She flinched like I'd slapped her. Caleb finally looked at me. We screwed up. National. We know that. We are sorry. We are really, really sorry. You called me a burden, I said quietly, and suddenly I was back on that curb, the evening sun hot on my face, my whole world collapsing. You wheeled me out of the house like broken furniture and closed the door without looking back. Do you have any idea what that did to me? We were wrong, Mom said, tears streaming now. We were cruel and selfish and wrong. But you're our family. We love you. We want to fix this. I moved to the window, looking out at the San Francisco skyline turning pink and gold in the sunset. 3 months ago I couldn't stand. Now I was about to become the public face of technology that would help thousands of people reclaim their lives. Here's the thing about family, I said, not turning around. Real family shows up in the hard times. Real family doesn't wait until you're successful to decide you're worth loving. Please, Caleb said. Give us another chance. I turned to face them, standing tall despite the exhaustion pulling at every muscle. I've given you 3 months of chances. Every day you didn't call, didn't text, didn't check if I was okay. That was a chance you threw away. Natalie. We're done here, I said. You can show yourselves out. Mom stood, desperate. What can we do? Tell us how to fix this. I looked at her for a long moment. Ask yourself what Dad would think of what you did to me. Then live with that answer. They left without another word, Mom's sobs echoing down the hallway until the elevator doors closed on them. I stood by my window until the sun fully set, until the city lights flickered on like stars, until the shaking in my hands finally stopped. Vanessa found me there an hour later. Heard you had visitors, she said gently. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. For the first time in a long time, I actually am. The next 6 weeks became a whirlwind. I did the Today Show interview, where I demonstrated walking without crutches for 15 feet, a new personal record achieved live on national television. I spoke at a TED Med conference in Los Angeles. I consulted with Neuralgen's engineering team on design improvements for the next generation Synapse Link devices. Bradford offered me equity in the company. Dr. Pierce nominated me for a Patient Advocacy Award. Vanessa started training me for a 5K charity walk scheduled for next spring. I moved into an accessible apartment in Pacific Heights with views of the bay, furnished with my first real paycheck from Neuralgen. No more living in a rehabilitation facility. No more depending on anyone. My phone still buzzed occasionally with messages from Mom and Caleb. I stopped reading them after the first dozen apologies. They'd started showing up to my public speaking events, sitting in the back, trying to catch my eye afterward. I walked right past them every time. Some people said I should forgive them. That family deserves second chances. That holding grudges only hurts yourself. But those people hadn't been called a burden. Hadn't been abandoned on a curb in a wheelchair, while the people who were supposed to love them most walked away without looking back. 6 months after my family threw me away, 60 Minutes did a feature on Synapse Link. They interviewed me in the Presidio Institute's therapy room, filming me walking on a treadmill without any assistance, something that would have been impossible with traditional treatment. The segment showed before and after footage. Me in the wheelchair. Me taking my first steps. Me walking independently. Me standing in Neuralgen's headquarters as Director of Patient Innovation. Anderson Cooper asked the question everyone wanted to know. What would you say to people who doubted you? I thought about my mother's voice saying you're a burden now. Thought about that closed door. That curb. That moment of complete abandonment. I'd say thank you, I answered. Because being underestimated gave me something to prove. Being rejected gave me something to fight for. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who accidentally push you toward your greatest strength. The segment ended with me walking across the Golden Gate Bridge at sunrise. No crutches, no walker, just me and my recovering legs and a future I'd built from scratch. It went viral. 16 million views in 3 days. Among the thousands of comments, I found one from a username I recognized, Caleb's gaming handle. I'm sorry we didn't see who you really were. But I'm glad you did. I closed the app without responding. 3 months ago, I was left on a curb in a wheelchair, called a burden, and abandoned by my family. Today, I walk into hospitals and research facilities and conference centers, helping people like me find hope when their bodies betray them. My family's rejection didn't break me. It revealed what I was capable of becoming. And I built something so magnificent from those ashes that when they finally saw it, when they finally understood what they'd thrown away, it shattered them completely. But their pain isn't my responsibility anymore. My only responsibility is to the thousands of people who need Synapse Link. Who need hope. Who need someone to prove that being called a burden doesn't define your worth. I walk forward now. Literally and metaphorically. And I don't look back.